And it's like, okay, I'm going to spin the wheel of, I don't know, famous rap groups. And so on there I'll put, you know, Demigods, Army of the Pharaohs, D12, Saint Lunatics, like all these rap groups, right? And then I'll spin it and it lands on, I don't know, D12 or Bone. All right, I'm going to spin this wheel of famous rap groups. Whichever one it lands on, we're going to call them up and get them to collaborate with me on a rock song. Here we go. D12, oh my gosh, the hardest one. What's this word?
D12 was Eminem's group out of Detroit who had several multi-platinum records in the 2000s, but their founding member died and Eminem has officially moved on. So I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get anybody on the song. I reached out to all the active members and I heard back from their artist Bizarre. Bizarre is known for his unique style and his shock lyrics, so I knew he'd be awesome on this track. We spoke on the phone, he was really cool about the idea. I sent him the instrumental, and later that same day he got back to me with this.
Sex, love, and rock and roll. I'ma do this till I'm 80 years old. Shout out to Lil Wayne, Eminem, Kamikaze. R.I.P. Ozzy. I love you.
Everybody running, but they're going nowhere.
That's where.
You got a moment when they see you down, just know they love it.
Everybody, welcome to the Bounce Back Podcast. I'm your host, B. Luke. I got a special guest with me today. Why don't you tell the people your name, where you're from, and a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name's Hop IQ, originally from Salt Lake City, Utah. Just moved out to Massachusetts like 10 years ago, so I'm living down on the South Shore now. Just a hip-hop artist, kind of getting started doing things and starting to make some waves. So, you know, it's kind of enjoying the ride for now.
Absolutely. So talk about how long it is you've been doing hip-hop with social media and actually, you know, taking things seriously, right? Because I feel like a lot of us, you know, it's one thing to sit there and, you know, maybe rap to your friends with a couple bit. Like I've been there, you know, write a little bit, but you seem to be doing pretty well. So talk about how long it is you've been doing it professionally or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I mean, for, you know, 20 years, I've been like ghostwriting on the side or recording for like, you know, a little song for my family, or I'll like freestyle at a work event or something like that. But it was just, I mean, 4 months ago that my kid pulled me aside and was like, hey, like, you should do what you love to do, Dad. And you know, I was talking to him about his future because he's like 15. And he's like, well, why don't you do what you enjoy? Like, what are you passionate about?
Wow.
I'm like, well, I'm passionate about music, but I mean, that's not an industry that you can break into when you're 40.
Wow.
And he's like, well, why not? Like, what, you have ChatGPT, just ask.
Wow.
So I'm like, all right, let's figure this out. So it started with this challenge for my kid where it's like, it was almost like a 75 hard for music, right? So it's like, oh, okay, let's challenge myself to see what, if I really pushed for 100 days and I dove into like, how do I build a brand and start social media and build a little bit of a following so when I do put out a single, somebody actually hears it. And like just learning all those steps. And now we're 4 months into it and it's got a lot of momentum where it's like, oh, people think I'm like a rapper, like official. So it's getting kind of fun and things are starting to be profitable and we're just plugging away with it. But I'm brand new to the scene, so this is all like new for me.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I mean, talk a little bit about how it feels to get some like probably life-changing advice from your son. I mean, that's got to be kind of cool. But you got to be proud of yourself for that, in a way. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah,
or have you even thought of it?
I'm a pretty intentional guy. You know, with my story, like the ability to like delay gratification has what I've built my whole life around. And so with my kids, I'm really intentional on, like when I talk to them, let's talk to them about lessons or, you know what I mean? Things that will shape their future and that kind of stuff. And the fact that they're regurgitating it back to me, it's like, oh yeah, okay, cool. So, you know, really in the back of my head, it's like, whether someone listens to any of my music or not, the fact that my kids see their dad and now they're old enough to really see the struggle, because when they were little and I started working, they were babies. Like they didn't really get how I progressed in my actual career. But this, I mean, they're old enough where this is kind of cool for them to see and for me to take a risk and do new things and learn new stuff. And it's really, really cool to like see me through their eyes. And if that's all I get out of this, like mission accomplished. I'm awesome. Fine with that.
Absolutely. So 4 months you've been going pretty strong, right? So I see you on Instagram, right? Was that somewhere that you went to first? Did you do YouTube? Did you do TikTok and all that? And I guess talk about where you went to first and why.
I know Instagram. You know what I mean? Because I'm, you know, 40 and TikTok and I don't know, Twitch, and like there's all these other things that I could be on, but Instagram I was pretty comfortable with. So I started out with that, just putting out some reels, just because I'm pretty musically inclined. I've, got freestyles and that kind of stuff that I've cooked up, and so I really just started putting music out there, sharing my opinion on hip hop. A new album would come out, and I'd be like, oh, Joyner Lucas, this is what I think of this album. And then slowly you just kind of build a following that there are like-minded people like me that also nerd out on hip-hop music, or also, are my age and appreciate Wu-Tang, and you know what I mean, stuff like that. So it's like, cool, we can kind of build a community and just grow it from there.
So what are some things you notice as far as maybe things that kind of do work, right? Because at first you're still, you're still trying it out now, but like, I'm sure you know a little bit like what works, what doesn't work. Would you have any suggestions for somebody starting new, or maybe even if you could go back and tell yourself, something you wish you knew when you started?
I'm still in the phase of nobody knows what works and what doesn't. Like, and I'm
well, they'd all blow up. That's what I said.
Yeah. Like I'm reaching out to major hip hop artists, and they're asking my advice, and I'm like, dude, you've sold like millions of records, and they're like, yeah, but it's not like it was in the old days of Death Row and No Limit Records, where you had a label, they took care of stuff. Like now that, it's all social media and short form content, so we're all like kind of experiencing what works and what doesn't. We see what Russ does or Connor Price does or, whoever, and we all just kind of copy that. So being so new in it, I'm literally just throwing everything out there, and it's just split testing everything I can think of. What works, I lean into. What doesn't work, cool, like I failed on that, but who cares? Let's lean into what's working. And then after a while, you start to find your lane, and you find a little bit of a rhythm, and but that's an ongoing thing. Like the world's changing, listeners are changing, the industry's changing, so it's adapt or die.
Absolutely. And you have, collaborations with artists like that have recognizable names, right? How important is collaboration in your opinion with all of this? And talk about some of the people that you've collaborated with.
Because I'm kind of a nerd, right? Like I just love hip hop and the lyricism of it. I'm not from the streets. I don't like connect with all the stories Nas was telling.
Right.
But listening to him tell the stories as a kid, I would still like see my own struggle in my own world through those stories, right? So I'd start to gravitate towards like storytelling hip hop. And then Bone Thugs would come out, and like the technical side of like what they're doing, and they're introducing like harmonies and stuff. So I'd really like geek out on that kind of thing. And so now that, I'm coming at the industry from a different angle, where I'm not looking to get rich or, get on, a bunch of girls or go touring or anything. I really just want to see what success looks like. And for me, what would be successful, money aside, is like working with my heroes.
Yeah.
And so from day one, it was like, okay, I have zero credibility. I have no brand, no, connections, no cash that I can dump into this. Let me just reach out to all of my favorites. So I like open my old CD case, and I'm like, okay, Snoop Dogg, I'm going to send him a message. Right. And, this guy, I'll send him a message. So I sent out 100 messages just to 100 different old school rappers that I love. And 95 of them ghost me, but 5 of them get back to me. And, 4 of them are like, nah, dude, that's not how it works. But one of them's like, yeah, man, let's jump on a quick track.
Yeah. Wow.
And I'm like, cool, okay. So, and that one that came out was Bizarre from D12.
Awesome.
And I was like, I love Eminem, no way. But that introduces new challenges, because my style of hip hop, like I don't swear. It's not how I was raised, and I'm not like a Christian rapper, but it's just not authentic. It just doesn't sound like me. So now I'm getting like these hip hop guys, and I do like a rock style kind of thing. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to send you a beat, and I'm coming at them as if I were established. So I'm like, hey, I'm going to send you a beat. I need you to lay down 16 bars. It's got to be clean and radio friendly. I need it back by Friday. So I'm like kind of pushing people around a little bit just to see if that works and how they respond. And these guys are professionals. He turned around a verse, put it out. It was awesome. Now that I have some credibility with that, I can flip it and do it again. And now my response from these new guys I send out on the second song was even better. Like I only had to send out 20 messages, and Crooked Eye, who's like, King Crooked is like the epitome of lyricism for me, gets back to me and is like, yeah, let's jump on a track. And then it snowballs into Drag On from Rough Riders, and you know, I had a Bad Boy collaboration, you know, a week or so ago. So like it's really snowballed into this. I'm figuring out this lane pretty quick, and then once you get a little credibility, you can just leverage that into more. So it's getting kind of fun.
That's amazing. So you said you send them a beat, right? Is that something that you do as well? Do you make your own beats, or is that something you work with somebody, or how does that work in your beat selection process?
My first contact, I didn't want to make like cheesy, you know, I never knew like how to secure beats, or do you pay for them? Does everyone build their own? Like, how does that world work? And so again, I just listed out 100 producers, and I started messaging them. One of my favorites is C. Lance. He produces a lot of stuff for like Mercules and Vinnie Paz and Army of the Pharaohs and like all this underground grimy stuff I really like. He got back to me, and he was like an open book. We were messaging back and forth on phone calls. I'm like picking his brain for free advice kind of stuff whenever I can, without like trying not to exploit the relationship. But he got me, you know, a handful of beats for a pretty good price. And I'm like, okay, I want like a rock vibe to it. So it sounds, you know, kind of rockish, but it's something that has, you know, good beat to it that these like legends can jump on. And that was kind of my beat selection process, and I've used him for all of my beats that I've been releasing so far.
That's cool. So you seem to be embracing like the nerd side of you, and you know, you're calling yourself Hip Hop IQ, right? You're really owning that, right? I mean, was that a conscious choice you made, that you're gonna do this, but you're gonna do it and be authentic to yourself? And I guess talk a little bit about that.
I mean, as a kid, I was, you know, kind of lower income, like blue collar family, and I spent just tons of time in my bedroom, right? Just like listening to music, and that was my outlet.
Right.
I didn't have tons of friends and all that kind of stuff. I wasn't super involved in high school, but like music was there. And I just found myself diving into lyrics and the artwork and the culture of it. But as I got older, I mean, I always loved music, and I'd even write stuff. And every once in a while I'd dabble with like writing gangster rap kind of stuff, but it never really felt like me, right? And so when I hear it, I could do it, and I could mimic or emulate, but when I did this project, especially with my kids behind me, it's like, no, I'm still gonna be me, and I'm not gonna compromise. I'm not gonna give in because something else is popular, or because this is what this big artist wants, because again, I don't need any of this. I'm not desperate for fame. So let's stick to myself. And I am a nerd for like lyricism, for like real true hip hop kind of stuff, but I love Pantera and Metallica and Megadeth and all that. So if I can kind of build this, it is kind of its own new lane, that there hasn't been a lot of really good rock rap kind of stuff with like true lyricism. There was like Limp Bizkit, it was kind of cheesy. Like, it was good rock.
And they were pretty big too. But yeah.
They were huge.
Kid Rock back.
Kid Rock, but again, like no one would consider him a bar lyricist, right?
Exactly.
So it's like, let's get some of these like really good rappers on that kind of new metal vibe. And I believed if I just start putting this stuff out there, there's 9 billion people in the world. There's got to be people like me that like connect with it and really like it. And I'm finding there's a ton of people that don't connect with it, right? Like they're listening to, you know, whatever Drake and drill rap and trap music, and this isn't that. And so I definitely get haters coming out of the woodwork that are like, dude, Unc, sit down. Like, you're old. Like, you're not, the hip in hip hop isn't you. But you know, I kind of embrace who I am, and it's like, all right, let's just get to work and find the people that also enjoy this kind of music and start building.
Absolutely. And like you said, you're going to have the haters who are going to hate, but when did you start getting like some good positive feedback? When did people start kind of like digging what you were doing, and tell me about that feeling and of you know, self-reward and all of that?
It's little by little, and especially with social media, it's like I'm putting stuff out on, you know, whatever social media pages I can every day, just to get, you know, increased exposure. And it's like social media is the new commercials and TV and like all that kind of stuff,
Right.
except we control it and it's free. So if you just put in the time, and if you are clever or funny or you have like a bit of a personality, if you can find ways to put that in there, your audience grows. You start to recognize people are always commenting. You're like, oh, this girl's really cool. Like we connect all the time. And then she becomes like a core fan. Yeah. And all of a sudden people start sharing your music and people start reaching out to you. And I mean, in just a couple of months, it is kind of cool, especially with the Spotify rap stuff now. I'm like, oh, cool. Like I'm, 100 different people's favorite artist. Like no way. That's really cool. So it is kind of fun.
That's cool. So I mean, talk about like putting music out, all these platforms, Spotify. This is all a process, right? I mean, talk about how you are able to, I guess, was it an easy process to even just learn how to make a Spotify account, or was that something that you had to sit down and try to, understand, or what are some obstacles you might have ran into as far as that? Because, I do the online thing too, and sometimes it's like I get a runaround of like trying to monetize my YouTube. You know what I mean? Like this the stuff that it's like, it gets really frustrating for me. So I guess talk a little bit about that in your experience.
It's whenever I get overwhelmed, it's like, okay, just put a list together. Like let's just list things out and then just start with number one. And I'm not the smartest guy in any room, but I can like discipline myself. So if I'm like, okay, ChatGPT, what are the 10 steps, digestible steps that I need to take in order to start a music career? And then it's like, okay, figure out your streaming. So you need to set up Spotify. I'm like, okay, how do I do that?
Right.
It's like, oh, okay, DistroKid or one of these platforms is like a distributor, and they'll distribute all of your music to all the major sites. So I'd ask around, like, who do you use? What platforms do you use? And I'd find one that works. And then I'm like, okay, how do I open an account with this? And, little by little, you just learn it, figure it out. And now 4 months in, the stuff I did months 1 through 3 is easy.
Right.
Like, I'm like a professional at all this stuff that was super overwhelming 4 months ago. But now it's like, hey, I've moved on. I'm on level 3 now.
Absolutely.
And so I'm encountering new challenges. So I'm figuring those out.
The way I see it too is like, you learn a little bit every day, right? But what does that look like in you see what it looks like in 4 months, but what does that look like in 2 years, 5 years? If you're gonna look like a genius, but it's not really like that. It was like just knowing the basics and then learning a little bit on top of it and on top of it. So, I mean, what are some things that got easier for you that were maybe difficult in the beginning?
That's the compound effect, right? Like you go to the gym on day 1 and you're just sore and tired and miserable.
And you still look the same?
Yeah, you look the same. Like nothing changes. Day 2, the same. 3, the same. And then after a while, like in this business or any business, if someone did discipline themselves, the world, it just like rewards consistency.
Yeah.
So in the music industry, if that's my gym, okay, let me plug into it. Let me treat my body the way I should, lift the way I should, and I'm going to transform in a short period of time, or even a long period of time, like whatever it's going to take. But yeah, that's just, a part of the process. It's just figuring things out. Nothing happens as quick as you want. So of course, like I'll, sit back and be like, oh geez, like this flopped, or I really thought this song was going to do well, but it didn't do as good as this other one. I wonder why. And so I'm like trying to figure stuff out, because a lot of it does feel like a gamble. Social media, things will go mega viral on one platform, and on the other it'll totally flop. Yeah. And it's like, well, was the content good or not?
Right, exactly.
Or did I just get lucky over here? Right. So, I wish that the random stuff I could like unlock the puzzle quicker. But you're just figuring stuff out step by step.
I look at it like when you first get a new video game and the map is all gray, and then you learn a little bit at a time, and it starts to make a little bit more sense.
That's the way it goes.
So I'm 40. I just had a birthday myself. I'm 40 years old as well. But for me, I first got into hip hop. I want to say I had a cassette. I forget what it was. I feel like it was like a soundtrack to a movie. I don't know, but Romeo Must Die. I don't know. I forget. It was an old cassette. And it had like a a bunch of art.
And Aaliyah back in one piece. So
exactly. I think that might have been it, because my first CD coming out, when CD, transferred over to CDs, I got 2 CDs, which made me kind of fall in love with hip hop, was DMX's first album and then Mace Harlem World as well. Yeah. So I mean, being the same age, talk about like when you first got into hip hop, and then like was there like a moment where it was like, wow, this is like more relatable? Because a lot of times the poor is poor sometimes. You can still relate to certain struggles are the same no matter where you're at, where you're from, what ethnicity you are. Some things are different, but there's some similarities as well. So talk about like first getting into hip hop and then actually like building a passion for it.
I joke about this now, but I don't know if they had it out here, but in Utah it was huge. There was this old company called like Columbia House or BMG, where you would mail in a postcard and you would select like 10 CDs and they'd send them all to you for like a penny.
Wow.
But it came with this contract that you had to get future CDs from them to fulfill, right? And I was like 11, 12, right? And so I would send in this postcard under like a fake name. They'd send me all these CDs, and then I'd send in another postcard under another fake name. And so like I was hustling as a little kid, getting flooded with all these CDs, and I'm like 12 years old. Like it's not like they're gonna come collect on some contract. So I was basically stealing CDs at a really young age. But I had all, everything that was in the mid 90s, Big Pun, all the Death Row Run, Bad Boy Records, and all their stuff.
Yeah, that was a great time for hip hop.
Yeah,
I was just culture in general.
It was, and as a kid, like it was like a soap opera, right? You're like, oh, cool, I love Tupac, and he had this like awesome diss record against Bad Boy Records, and now it's like, well, let's deep dive into Bad Boy Records and get into all their group.
Right.
And then No Limit's doing their thing, and then Lil Wayne pops up, and it just kind of evolves. And but yeah, like all the old classics I was really into, and even I feel like that's when rap really became super mainstream. And so now when I'm going to school, I'd see somebody with a Locks T-shirt, and I'm like, oh, Jadakiss, like what's going on? And we would connect off of this music that was familiar to us, right? So that really grew to where. In my late teens, it was more, I want to listen to anything I know my parents would hate, like rebellious stage. Yeah. So loud metal and gangster rap was like just what filled my brain for years.
Parents' nightmare.
Yeah, and it's, that kind of defined, they didn't know it, but it defined young hip-hop IQ and kind of built me into how I operate now.
So what if you were to single out like maybe one or two artists from that time particularly that was just really a big, influence on you?
I mean, Bone Thugs and Harmony has always been my favorite. I just really, really loved, like East 1999 album was huge in 95, and I just really followed him closely. When Eminem came out, that was eye-opening, where it's like, wait a minute, like now rap is going to the suburbs, and like I start to connect with this differently. Like, I got bullied as a kid, you know what I mean? And I'm like feeling a lot of his stuff different than NWA dealing drugs or, some of the other content. So Eminem I connected with like immediately, just like every white kid did in 1999. And then when that started to evolve to stuff like Linkin Park, where it's like, cool, Mike Shinoda, and you had this like screaming rock guy together, and their albums blew up, and the whole world was on like Meteora and Hybrid Theory. And so it's hard to say just one, but that was kind of my path where Eminem, Linkin Park, that really got me feeling like, hey, like I could do this. Like this is something that I could actually excel at. And now this culture that I've been raised in like music and telling stories, now I have an outlet and a channel that I believe I could actually funnel it into. So my passion for music really grew from that, for sure.
I mean, I get that a lot, like I had said about the DMX and Mace, but that evolved, Mace wasn't around too long anyway, but that evolved into like, Puff Daddy, and then Big, from there, more Biggie through Puff and the Mace connection and all that, and then like the Nas, and then the Eminem, and then the G Unit, like DMX. For sure. Like at that time, it was just what it was, but like I could certainly relate to that evolving over time. And nowadays we see so many of, it's an unfortunate situation, so many of these rappers that are, becoming victims to the streets, right? And you had mentioned Tupac and Biggie earlier, right? So we were like young when that happened, right? So like, it's one thing to, listen to rap and you hear about all this violence, but then it actually gets real and it's on the news and it's like mainstream culture. Like, I mean, what do you start thinking at that point, like being young and then like these people dying and like, I guess what's going through your brain with all that?
I was too young to really get it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's, you hear what's going on, and Tupac dies, and it's like, oh, I hope he recorded a lot more music for me to listen to that they could release
Make it
later.
about you, right?
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I don't really connect with, like, this was an actual person,
Right.
and these were, like, actual struggles. Now, as I get, you know, a little bit older, and I can recognize, like, situations and stuff like that, it is sad that, I mean, even, you know, watching a lot of your podcasts, like, I hear a lot of stories and people that sit in this chair where it's like, dang, like, a lot of folks are stuck in this mindset of, like, oh, you stepped on my shoes. Like, I need to, like, retaliate, or I'm not going to let anything fly. You know what I mean? And it's like, if we all take a step back, like, we don't need to escalate things. And when I was 20, I didn't think like I do when I'm 40 now, right? So we all kind of, I guess, mature over time. But a lot of these young rappers, like, that's the world they're in. And they have to flex on things, and they have to put on fronts, and, you know, pride gobbles people up, bad connections and relationships gobble people up, and it's a sad story for sure.
I seen another YouTuber say that the image you project is the image you have to protect, right? So I like, that's pretty smart, where you're not trying to be like tough and gangster and all that, because then you get put in situations where you got to protect that image, and it just that's a lose-lose for everybody, I would say. I mean, how do you feel about that? You agree with that?
I do. I mean, and just being authentic to who you are. You know, you want to have some maturity, and you want to grow and learn from experiences. But for me specifically, especially, like, I'm married, I got 4 little, you know, kids. My wife was like beside herself when she's like, you're going to be a rapper? Like, what are you doing? Right. Think about the rooms you're going to be in, and, you know, the associations you're going to have. And I'm just like, if I'm just authentic to me, and people recognize, I'm not trying to be something I'm not. I'm not trying to be some culture vulture, you know, whatever. But I was raised on hip hop. That is, like, literally just what I was raised on. And so if I'm authentic to my appreciation for this art form, cool. Like, if someone doesn't connect with that, that's great. But I'm just going to be authentic to who I am and what I feel, and just go with it.
So were you always someone who didn't really care too much about, like, what people may think of you, and were you always like your authentic self, or just like everyone else? I'm sure we all go through, like, identity crisis times, and we don't even know who we are. Sometimes I don't even know who I am now. But I mean, talk a little bit like that. Has that always been your way of thinking, or something that came recently?
I grew into it as a really young kid. You know, we didn't have a ton of money, and I wasn't really self-aware, to where I was picked on a lot. In elementary school, into middle school. It's like I was the kid that people would try to, like, push over in the halls. You know what I mean? So I was definitely, you know, picked on in that regard. And then when I got into high school, I started to recognize patterns where it was like, you know, I bet everybody feels insecure. Like, regardless of what they're doing or how they're talking, but people do their hair because they want to look pretty, because they want, you know, to show the world a better part of themselves maybe than how they feel. So at a kind of a young age, I was, like, seeing holes in the matrix, where it's like, if I just am cool with everybody, and I'm the guy that smiles, and someone picks on me or whatever, and I don't internalize it, but I'm like, this bully just wants to be tough because maybe he's a little broken inside and just wants to, you know, present himself as big, or, you know, whatever it is. And so the realization of that has really helped me, and it defined, you know, who I am at a young age, where, you know, now it's be authentic to you, be a good person, be good to people. And if someone slips off the path, or they're a jerk, or they cut you off, like, what are you going to do? Pull your car over and flip out, or just be like, they are living their own life. You know what I mean? And it brings me a lot of peace. But it also helps me raise really good kids, and helps me, like, see the world better, where I'm just a much happier person than someone that internalizes, like, all this other stuff.
Absolutely. They can be very bitter when you internalize things, and that seems like it could be, like, a very groundbreaking moment to be like, you know what? To not internalize, it's not me, it's them. You know what I mean? Or it's all of us, really, just a, you know, outward projection sometimes about how we feel about ourselves and our own insecurities, and we put that onto others. So I want to get into what it was like growing up, right? You said Salt Lake City, Utah, or just outside. I guess talk about where you grew up and like your family dynamic, and get into what was going on there. Did, you know, both parents in the house? How many siblings, if any? And talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, have you ever been to Utah? You know much about the culture? It's
I know it's what is it? Is it real Mormon culture? Danny Age, I think, is from out there.
Yeah,
BYU. I know a little bit. I'm sure you could tell it better than I can.
Yeah, I mean, so I was in like southern Utah, like all the Red Rock desert kind of stuff you see. That's where like my folks are from. I was born down there. We moved up to the big city, like of Salt Lake, right, when I was an elementary school age. But I've got an older sister, a younger brother, and we were kind of that lower middle income kind of stuff, apartment or single family, like 3-bedroom house kind of living. And it was great. Both parents in the home, a great loving family. Like I was raised in a really, really good situation. Super religious household. Mormon culture is really strong out there where everybody looks out for everybody. It's not like the polygamy Mormon wives like stuff you see on TV. Like it's just a good Christian values kind of area. So my childhood and that kind of stuff, even though Dad was always working construction jobs and out late and that kind of stuff, my mom got to stay home. We would run the neighborhood like kids raised in the 80s would. You know what I mean? Riding our bikes everywhere and all that kind of stuff. And, life was good.
So let's talk a little bit about how you did as a student in school. I mean, did you maintain good grades coming up? Did you struggle a little bit? I know some kids got ADHD or whatever, especially during that era. They try to, project a lot of that stuff, Ritalin and all that stuff. So I guess talk a little bit about how you did in school as a student, academically.
I was not book smart. I don't think I read a single book until I was much out of graduating high school. Like I just wasn't academic like that. So I didn't get great grades, just enough to pass to, keep from my dad, whipping me or whatnot. Like I didn't want to get in trouble with him. But it was like just doing my thing in school. I really figured out how to like scam stuff. I was like the Zach Morris or the scammer
right.
that would, see through stuff. I'd start little businesses and like try to hustle money at school and cut out every class I could. That was the kind of kid I was, just kind of cutting as many corners to get by until, after I graduated.
Yeah. Okay, so you had mentioned a couple times about maybe some bullies, right? Was that ever anything that got you or anyone into any trouble? Did that ever become anything physical, or talk a little bit about that? Or what was like the worst the worst case of bullying that you might have experienced?
Not really. I mean, this is, white suburb in the protection of the Utah bubble. You know what I mean? So it's not like
Give me your
it was
lunch money,
anything crazy or anything. It was like, I'd get pushed down and, get scraped up knees. And it was enough to like send me home crying and get me in my room feeling terrible about myself. But nothing really physical or, where authorities would get involved or any stuff like that. It got to the point in middle school where like the principal would walk me to certain classes because he felt like, that would help me or whatever, which of course like makes everything worse. And so, there were points that it got kind of ugly, just, being myself, like I was painfully aware of. Everybody else, I'm sure, has forgotten about it and that kind of thing. But as a kid, like there were some struggles in that regard. But that's all kids go through that kind of stuff.
Absolutely, it's an important part of life, and you seem to learn a lot from it, a lot of lessons. So, I mean, walk me through how it works out there with school, right? Is this do you stay like, is there a grade school, middle school, and then high school, or I guess talk a little bit about that, and then like what those transition is like going into high school.
Yeah, kindergarten through 6th grade was like your elementary school experience. Okay. And it's like the average family out there has 4 kids, maybe 5. And so big families, right? So there's just kids everywhere. That's a huge culture shock between there and here. Like here you go into a McDonald's and there's no play place. Like that's super weird.
That's a relatively new thing too. So I don't know. Yeah, there used to be. So I don't know if it's like countrywide. I don't know. But like I know growing up, there was that, but I don't know what happened. It was probably just because I remember being young once going in one, and it was like pictures of like dicks drawn tits and shit. I'm like, this is horrible. People are crazy. Like, I don't know. I can see why they shut it down, at least at that place. But
Makes sense.
But that's wild.
In Utah, everything's geared towards kids.
Amazing.
And so there's just so much of that. And so in elementary, you know, the school classrooms are packed like 30 kids to a class or whatnot. You get into middle school, and that's like 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. Middle school, like everyone's trying to find themselves. And so that's where, you know, kids are like, oh, this is the gangster group and the gothic group and like this and like all that kind of stuff really like presented itself in now those grades. That was the toughest time, was middle school. When you get into high school, we had like a big 5A high school. Like our graduating class was like 2,000 kids.
Oh,
wow. So it's like 6,000 people going to the high school, which is pretty big. But by the time high school came around, and I tell my kids this all the time, like everyone's kind of found themselves. Like if you're a drama geek, there's a lot of drama geeks in high school, and all of a sudden you find this group, and you got your choir kids, and you got your football kids, and like all that kind of stuff. And so high school is relatively, you know, it was fun, and that's where I really started to find myself. And, you know, senior year, I was like, you know, voted one of the best looking guys, like, you know, all that kind of stuff. And like I'd really grown into my confidence at that point. But yeah, I mean, it's similar here, I suppose, as far as just how kids are raised.
Absolutely. I know, I was just wondering too, like middle school, are you changing classes, or do you have like the same teacher throughout the whole day, or do you remember what that was like?
There'd be like a homeroom that you go into, and then you have like 7 different classes. So every like 40 minutes or something, you're packing up your stuff and going to science, and then you're going to literature, like whatever, and you kind of bounce around all day.
It's like prepping you for high school and all of that. So what about like sports, right? Was that part of your childhood growing up? Did you get into any sports, play any sports, like any sports?
Yeah, I was big into basketball.
Nice.
You know, I shoot hoops in my front yard all the time. I was a great ball handler, but my lack of confidence didn't really allow me to play at school. I'm getting picked last, like no one is my friend, and so they wouldn't want me on their team. So I tend to think like, oh, I suck. But we'd go to like, you know, rec ball or whatever, and the coach wants me to be the point guard because I'm the best one, the ball handler on the floor. So, you know, there was some stuff like that where I was pretty good with sports, but by the time I got into middle school and into high school, I was never passionate enough about it and confident enough that I really excel. And in a big high school like that, to be on the basketball team, like you got to be good. And, you know, same kind of thing with the football and that kind of stuff. And so when I got into high school, I was cutting class so much and kind of disassociating myself with academics that I was in, you know, I played golf, and I was like in choir because they were easy classes, which fueled my love for music, you know, behind the scenes. So different stuff, but sports was always there, but I wasn't by any means best in the state or anything like that.
Well, what are some maybe life lessons you might have got out of sports, say like teamwork or something like that? What are some positive things you think you could have took from that? Or even friendships too. You meet people, you know, in sports that, you know, Little League, I still know people now and friends with them on Instagram. You know, it's all these people you meet in your life. So, and just, you know, being social beings and, you know what I mean, being around people and working together towards a common goal. Like, I guess talk a little bit how you feel about that. Are your kids into sports or what?
Oh yeah, like and loving sports, you know, in basketball is so big in Utah because we have the Utah Jazz, and that's it. There's no other sports. There's nothing else to really watch. So everyone's into basketball. And, you know, I connect with my kids where they're all like little athletes and they've had the opportunity to play because I've, you know, ensured that I'm a lot stronger, I guess, a part of their lives a lot more because I can afford to be, where my dad was just at work so much, you know, it's not like he was walking me to practice and that kind of thing. But yeah, you know, my kids all do sports. I love the lessons that it teaches. One of my favorite things in sports is like, I don't want to coach my kids' teams because I feel like there's so much value in someone else yelling at my kid. Yeah. Like I just love it. Like I want them to like feel pressure from somebody else, and how do I communicate to him, and how do I give him what he wants? Like, what's my assignment on the field here? And like all those things are very different than how they would respond to me. So even though I want to be involved in my kids' lives, no, like I don't want to coach your team. I don't want to rob you of hating your coach.
Yeah.
Just like, you know, all kids should hate their coach. Like it's,
Or have that one favorite one sometimes. That
yeah,
you
you
all
hate them,
remember.
but you love them, you know what I mean? Because they just get the best out of you. So there's just
Absolutely.
tons of lessons from
I
sports.
agree wholeheartedly. So, end of high school, do you graduate, and what's the plan at that point?
I graduated by the skin of my teeth. It was like in the 9th hour kind of situation. But I graduated, and then I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Like I wasn't passionate about anything. I just knew I wanted to be rich, right? Like that was my goal. Is that this young hustler wants to like, okay, I'll be a millionaire. I just don't know how. And then after you graduate high school, in the Mormon culture, like you turn 19 and you go serve a 2-year mission. So you knock on doors like as a missionary for the church.
Okay.
So I knew I wanted to do that. And so I went to Omaha, Nebraska on a mission for a couple of years. I didn't know it, but I'm like knocking doors, like talking to people about, you know, about Jesus, and they're slamming the door in my face and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't realize I was conditioning myself for sales. Like that's really baptism by fire, because you're selling something that nobody wants to hear, and you have to like figure out ways to still like talk to people. So that was a fantastic experience, like religiously, of course, like spiritual growth and all that kind of stuff, a lot of maturing.
Talk about that. Talk about how it felt when, you know, maybe that one person that didn't slam the door and you got them to maybe, you know, continue on their journey of their faith. Talk about, I mean, how rewarding was that? Seems like it should be very rewarding.
What's crazy is you get these like 19-year-old idiots who've never left home, and you throw them out into this experience that's like completely selfless. There's no girlfriend, there's no free time, there's no me. It's like, hey, I'm out here and my mission is to talk to people about, you know, Jesus, and talk to people about, do you go to church and what do you believe, and like how can I enrich your spirituality and like make you a happier person. And it's not about like converting people to Mormonism or like any of that. It's just like this real dig down and figure out like, what do I actually believe as a person, and how can I better the lives of the people that I'm serving in this area. So for an 18-year-old kid, like that's a huge transformation that, I don't know, I'm super grateful that I was a part of. And of course, like there's crazy rewarding experiences where you turn somebody's life around, or you know, their mom just passed away and they didn't really know, like, is there an afterlife? Like, I know of the Bible, but we never studied it. Like, help me find peace in this situation. And you're there at the right time, and you're like, man, I feel like I was led to this house for this conversation. So there's a lot of that, like, really, I don't know, fulfilling kind of stuff that I'm really, really grateful that I went through. There's heartbreaking stuff, too, where you're with someone and they really feel what you're saying, and their dad is like, nope, we want nothing to do. I had a bad experience when I was a kid with a bishop that was a crook, and you know, or whatever. And you know what I mean? Like you feel like someone's right there, and maybe you could help them, but they never want to see you again. You're like, oh, geez, like that tears you up, right? So it's a growing experience for sure.
So I guess talk about, like, walk me through the average day of when you're on the mission, right? How does it work? You said you're out. Where were you, and like where are you staying? Do you stay with the Mormon church, or how do they get you a place to stay? I guess walk me through that.
It's a whole thing. So when you go on your mission, you basically send in papers, and you're like, okay, here's my name. You know, I went to school, whatever. I will go wherever you want me to go. And it's like this big thing. They send you back a letter. You open it in front of your family, and it's like, you're hereby called to serve in the Philippines, speaking Tagalog, or you know what I mean, or like China, or like whatever it's going to be. And I open mine up, and I'm like, sweet, where am I going? And it's like, you're going to Omaha, Nebraska. I'm like, freak, that's like 2 states over. Like that's not. So I was kind of disappointed.
Great Plains or something.
But it's like, we got there, they secure like an apartment for you, and you stay with a companion that you're going to be with for, you know, a couple of months, and then you'll switch companions just to kind of keep things fresh. But yeah, it's just you and your companion in an apartment. They have very strict schedules where it's like, hey, you will wake up at 6 a.m. every day. You'll study until 8 a.m. and eat breakfast. you're out the door by 8:30, and then you will go out and proselyte and talk to people, and you kind of want to like set appointments with someone and maybe come back and teach them a first lesson, like, do you know about God at all, or Christianity at all, and you kind of figure out what their foundation of belief system is, and how you can serve them, that kind of stuff, and you just do that every day. And so there's no going home, there's no calling home. You are there, and you are a missionary for 2 years, and you come back like a total stranger to your own mother who just hasn't seen you in forever. So it's a crazy experience.
So I mean, did you end up leaving Omaha, Nebraska, or where was like the next stop, or like what comes after your mission, right? What comes after that? What you said, 2 years?
Yeah. After the mission, you come home, and most kids are like, cool, I'm going to go to BYU, or I'm going to go to college, or I'm going to do whatever. And I just came home, and I had no clue what I was going to do. A buddy of mine was like, hey, there are people that knock on people's doors and sell like home security systems or pest control or like that kind of stuff. And you've been knocking doors for 2 years. Yeah. If you want, you can come out this summer and do that with me.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, okay. So I got into sales, just door-to-door sales. I had a knack for it. Nice. I was pretty good with it, right? And so I just kind of learned a little bit from that, and just grew my sales career and became a career sales guy.
So, I mean, talk about like that structure of having to wake up, having to study the Bible, having to, knock on doors, that structure, right? And then once you leave and now you're a salesman. And is that something that you took with you, the structure, and was that important, and why?
Oh yeah, like the structure, and there's no accident that like they send these missionaries out there at 18-year-old kids. Like, what better lesson to give an 18-year-old than like, okay, if you do structure your life, you're gonna get results. Just like we were talking about going to the gym. Like, there are people that go to the gym and they just wander around, socialize, and high five people, and walk on the treadmill for 5 minutes and then go somewhere else. Like, what kind of result is that from going to the gym, as opposed to the guy that has this list of this is my structure, and I'm going to execute like the structure. So like the experience they're going to get from the gym is totally different. Same kind of thing with life. Like, you come home from your mission, and if I'm structured where I'm going to lay everything out and I know the plan, and I've got 2 years of experience of like never deviating from the plan even a little. If I build my life on a structure like that and become just a super disciplined person, I don't care what I'm doing. Like, I will figure it out. It's just a matter of how to figure it out. But I have the structure, and it's just let's go to work.
Absolutely, that's amazing. So, like, what was, before we move on from the mission, like, do you got a favorite part about that? What was your favorite part of those 2 years?
It's so hard to say. Like, from a selfish side, it was cool to see a different part of the country. Maybe not selfish is the right word, but you know what I mean. For personally, it was like I was exposed to, like, in that area of the country, there's people like coming in floods from Sudan and Togo and like all these areas, and they land right middle America, and I'm learning to like socialize with these people and hang out with these people, and nothing like that exists in Salt Lake. Everyone's a white Mormon kid exactly like me. It's like one of the least diverse areas in the world is Utah.
Okay.
And so I went somewhere where I did see some more diversity, and got to experience some other stuff. Now I had friends that went to Brazil on their mission, or Tonga. They had very different experiences, but for me, it was cool to like experience that kind of stuff. The spiritual side of it, there are people that struggle with their faith, or struggle with, maybe they lose a loved one, and so their faith in God is shaken, and that kind of stuff. Like I'm sensitive to all that stuff, but like knowing who I am and what I believe, man, I spent 2 years building that foundation, and it would take a lot to shake it, which is really cool, and I'm grateful that I went through.
I mean, that sounds amazing. It sounds like it all worked out perfectly, especially going from doing that to the sales, right? It was like, I was meant to do that, you know what I mean? Nothing happens by accident, with the creator. But, and then, so talk about now you're in sales, right? Is that what you've been doing ever, like, how long did you do sales? And I guess, you know, give some people some game, like some keys to success in sales, man. You know, a lot of people probably want to, you know, be a salesman themselves.
Sales is the great equalizer, because sales is something that, like, it's the oldest profession. Like, since the beginning of time, someone had something, but they had to figure out a way to, like, get it to somebody else. You know what I mean? So sales is a profession that will always exist in some way. How things are sold, that changes from market to market and different products. But a sale, if you can master a sales skill, you've mastered everything.
Yeah.
Because if you're a skilled salesman and then you shift to a totally different career, you're more likely to get a job somewhere else in an interview because you know how to sell yourself. You're more likely to get a promotion as a lawyer or whatever because you know how to sell yourself and how to help people see value and how to lean on things the right way so that they take advantage of what offer you have to better your own situation. So seeing like all that kind of stuff and mastering that skill, I think everybody should, like, after high school, start sales.
Absolutely.
Screw college, do sales for 4 years,
successful.
and then get into whatever career you want, but know how to sell, how to take rejection, how to, like, recoup and figure out what worked and then lean into that part. And sales is just a really, really beneficial skill. And I changed from, I was first selling home security systems for a while. I learned, I don't really believe a lot in home security systems. Some people are just terrified and they live their lives in fear, so they want to, like, lock the doors and turn on an alarm. I don't really live in fear like that. And so, but we would go into, you know, Houston and, I don't know, New York and Florida and Vegas and, like, the hood of hoods, and that's where I would sell. So I spent a good 5 to 8 years just being in these different environments and learning all kinds of new stuff. And so that was where my foundation of sales came. And when I came here, it was about 10 years or so ago, and solar was just popping everywhere. Well, solar wasn't popping at all. We thought it was going to, and so I was a part of the team that, like, brought solar to Massachusetts. We would knock on people's doors talking about solar panels, and no one had ever seen them before. And now, you know, 10, 15 years into doing it out here, like, everybody knows about solar, and it's kind of grown into a pretty cool career.
Have you ever came into a situation where maybe you had to sell something that may be conflicted with your faith, or how would you handle that? You say you don't really believe in alarm systems, but I'm sure you could justify that to, it is helping people. Some people, you know, it gives them comfort, but, like, was there ever a situation where it's like, no, this is like a trash product, I don't believe in it, so therefore I'm not going to try to sell it because that might conflict with, I feel like,
100%.
lying or something? I guess talk about that.
I hated the idea of, like, I'm selling this alarm system, and here I am talking to some lady who can't afford to keep food on her table. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, this will offer you some protection in case of a burglary, or in case, you know what I mean? So you want to do good by somebody, but you want to make a sale. That's what you're there to do. And you know what I mean? You feel like your product helps them, but that was one of the main reasons I got out of alarms, is because there were times where I'd see somebody in a grocery store, you know, 3 months later that I had sold, and I was like, oh shoot, I don't want to talk to this person. Like, what if they have buyer's remorse or feel like I took advantage or something? And I really hated that feel. Getting into solar, it's a different product where, like, everyone pays a power bill, and if you have solar panels on the roof, your power bill's half the price. So it's like, it's a product that, like, I can rest my head on the pillow, like, good, to where you definitely want to sell something you believe in, so you don't get that weird conflict of, like, I want to be the Wolf of Wall Street sales killer without taking advantage of people and being like the skeezy product kind of guy.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So you had mentioned that you came over here because of solar. I guess talk about that move. How does that opportunity present itself? And then talk about the adjustment of moving way out to the East Coast. And I guess talk a little bit about that.
Like, I had spent, 10 years or so after my mission moving from market to market. So that's how alarms was done, is it was like, okay, we'll establish a team, and then for the summer, we will plop into Kansas City, Missouri, and we'll sell there for 4 months, and then we'll come back home and reestablish another team and do it again. So I had done that for 10 years, and, having some new kids and all that kind of stuff, we were done moving around. So I was like, okay, I want to move to a market where I don't have to move around anymore. The solar thing was, really just starting to take off. And so I sat down with the leadership, and I'd established, I'd made myself known as one of the best sales guys in the country and built, really good at building teams. So they're like, hey, we want you as our, sales leader. Your markets are, you could go to California, you can go to Hawaii, or you could go to Massachusetts. I hate California, want nothing to do with that. And I'm like, no, I'll pass.
Hawaii's so far.
There was a news article that came out earlier that month where a kid got beat up because he wasn't Hawaiian. Wow, and I was like, I don't want my kids beat up because they're not Islander.
Right,
It scared me a little
Boston
bit where I was like, Boston sounds cool, and they just won the championship, the Celtics in 2008, and all the different sports. I'd never been to Fenway, and I just started to sell myself on how cool it would be. So I'd never been here before. We just picked up and moved out, and we're like, let's figure it out.
So how old are the kids at this point? And then talk about what you get here. What are maybe some things you had to adjust to that you weren't expecting, or what was that like? But how old were the kids when you guys moved? And then
let's see, I got here and the kids, we hadn't had the twins yet. We have I think we had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And then we just moved into some whole apartment up in Lowell. I didn't know if Lowell was a good area or a bad area. I just found an apartment. It's like, cool, let's move in.
Right.
So, we were kind of in this grimy spot where I'm like, oh man, I better work hard and make a lot of money.
Yeah, Lowell has its pockets.
So we can get somewhere that I really want to be. But it was an adjustment. One thing I loved about moving here, the culture, people in Boston or on the East Coast have this I guess, I don't know what you want to call it, but people think they're rude, right?
Yeah, I knew that's what you would
of course.
Aggressiveness, I call it. We're just a little aggressive.
But being in sales, man, that's refreshing. When I talk to somebody, I want to know exactly how you feel.
Yeah.
Right? In Utah, I talk to somebody, and there's 30 minutes of pleasantries before I figure out they've just been taking me down this dead-end road that I could be off to somebody else. So out here, just that curtness, what the hell do you want? I really appreciate
the quick no, so you could get to the next sale possibly too.
Or I could just be real with people. I don't have to sweet talk them. I don't have to song and dance. It's look, this is what you're paying for your power bill right now. If you have this product, it's going to be cheaper. If it's not cheaper, tell me to kick rocks. But if I can help you out, let's see what we can do. I'm that's the pitch, right? So it became this kind of thing where I became more East Coast just from being here.
Yeah.
And now, being here for so long, I love the culture. The people are, sweethearts, and everyone the people are really caring, and they just have a different way of showing it to you.
And it's a big college town too, so there's a lot of transplants like you. A lot of people that aren't from here as well. I'm sure, as you you go to a bar and you'll meet people. Most of them probably won't even be from here. It seems like, especially Back Bay area, the touristy kind of part. So talk a little bit about I'm interested in the whole Mormon and hip hop, right? Doesn't really seem like peanut butter and jelly to me, right?
100%.
So I mean, what are some of the reactions in your Mormon community or family, or I guess talk a little bit about that.
Most people think of hip hop like gangster and drugs and sex and all that kind of stuff, right? Which it's absolutely all over the place. So that's definitely there. For me, I know that that's not me. That's not my experience. And when I make music, that's not what I'm putting on, right? I'm going to put on who I am and kind of my experience on there. So there's always hesitation where people are like, you're making rap music, or ew, you did a song with this guy. I heard that, his music is terrible. It swears all the time. I'm like, cool. If you listen to my music for 30 seconds, you'll figure out oh, this is this is still this person, and you know what I mean? It's my style. So there's a little bit of that stigma to it, but the beauty of the world right now that we live in is that not everything is this big mainstream. If you want very specific type of hip hop, it's out there in the underground, and it's available for everybody. So regardless of what your jam is, there's Christian hip hop, there's children's hip hop sung from puppets. No matter what you want, it's out there that's findable. It's just a matter of not everybody vibes with what I do. But if I start to build my community and enough people hear what I do, they get a taste for what I'm all about. And if they enjoy it, stick around. If they don't, move on. There's a lot of other stuff out there, right?
Okay. So, I mean, how did you feel, or what did you know of, like, Boston hip hop before you got here? Or I guess maybe what did you think of it? What were your expectations? Or did you think of it at all? And then compared to now being here, and what are some things that you've picked up on, and how did you get in tune with maybe local hip hop? Because, you know, we have the local radio stations, but a lot of times they play, like, you know, the top 40 stuff. But, you know, you've been here, 10 years? College stations, the 88.9 ERS would play a lot of underground hip hop at night. I guess talk about, if you even thought it, I mean, you were a fan of hip hop before you got here, so I guess what was going through your brain about Boston, seeing that we really haven't had somebody too big. Benzino, for his time, he's, you know, he did his thing with The Source. Now a little bit more, Joyner Lucas is pretty big, but that's more recently. So I guess talk about what we, you know, going into it, what did you think about it?
You hit the nail on the head. That was pretty much all I knew about Boston was, like, Benzino, and then, like, is it Millie's?
Millie's,
yeah. So, you know, he would
Cambridge,
do it. But I loved him because he was always collaborating with Jadakiss. He was, like, one of my favorites. And so Joyner Lucas, like, when he started to blow up, I was already living out here. So it's like, oh, cool, like a Worcester boy is, like, doing his thing. Boston never really was on the map for me musically. Like, it was never really on my radar. Just because it's a big country, and, you know, I'm spread thin with whatever I'm listening to. Pretty much all I knew about Boston was, like, Benzino, and then, like, is it Millie's?
Millie's,
So, you know, he would do
Cambridge,
it. But I loved him because he was always collaborating with Jadakiss. He was, like, one of my favorites. And so Joyner Lucas, like, when he started to blow up, I was already living out here. So it's like, oh, cool, like a Worcester boy is, like, doing his thing. Being out here, like, I'm at the point right now where, you know, I do have a pretty decent social media presence, and my Spotify listeners, like, I probably should be selective, but I'm not. Like, let's make music, let's figure stuff out. It's the same kind of thing as making phone calls to artists that'll never call me back. You know, if I get 100 no's, but one of them's a yes, it was worth it. Collaborations, man, like, cool, let's make music together. So I'm really accessible in that regard. Boston never really was on the map for me musically. Like, it was never really on my radar. Just because it's a big country, and, you know, I'm spread thin with whatever I'm listening to. Being out here, I'm still not in the scene. I'm not going to clubs. I'm a Mormon. I don't drink. I don't go to bars. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not a part of the active scene like a lot of these local musicians are. So for me, in growing my music, a lot of it is social media. I'll still go and I'll do, like, little freestyles on radio shows, or I'll go to, you know, some local shows if, I don't know, Chris Webby and Apathy and, like, some of these underground favorites are, like, making their way up here. I'll go to stuff. But I'm not, you won't find me in a lot of these, you know, hip hop scenes where people rub shoulders and I get to know others in the industry.
For sure.
I'm collaborating with artists that I respect and I like. But yeah, you know, that's kind of where I'm at now.
Would you be willing, and have you collaborated with anybody locally? And what if somebody is watching this? I have a lot of rappers on here, you know what I mean, that have done big things. I have last guy I interviewed, he had interviews, he had features with Hell Rel, Fred the Godson, you know, J.R. Ryder, you know what I mean? So, what if somebody out here locally wanted to maybe do a feature, they see this, they check out your Instagram, would that be something you'd be willing to do? And then I guess how could they go about that? Just direct message?
100%. Message me and be like, dude, I want to collab. Like, I'm at the point right now where, you know, I do have a pretty decent social media presence, and my Spotify listeners, like, I probably should be selective, but I'm not. Like, let's make music, let's figure stuff out. It's the same kind of thing as making phone calls to artists that'll never call me back. You know, if I get 100 no's, but one of them's a yes, it was worth it. Collaborations, man, like, cool, let's make music together. So I'm really accessible in that regard. The way I'm making music right now is I kind of have two different campaigns. One of them is my, like, spin the wheel thing. Have you seen that?
Is that the state one, or is that the other one?
That's the other one. Yeah. So the first
spin the wheel, I take it's just like a like people asked in, is it? I guess explain it to me. It's just like a spin the wheel seems like a randomized thing, but
yeah, I figured, like, so I wanted it to be kind of a gimmick that's almost like a show that people could tune into and watch, right? So it's a little 1-minute clip And it's like, okay, I'm going to spin the wheel of, I don't know, famous rap groups. And so on there I'll put, you know, Demigods, Army of the Pharaohs, D12, Saint Lunatics, like all these rap groups, right? And then I'll spin it and it lands on, I don't know, D12 or Bone.
All right, I'm going to spin this wheel of famous rap groups. Whichever one it lands on, we're going to call them up and get them to collaborate with me on a rock song. Here we go. D12, oh my gosh, the hardest one. What's this word? D12 was Eminem's group out of Detroit who had several multi-platinum records in the 2000s, but their founding member died and Eminem has officially moved on. So I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get anybody on the song. I reached out to all the active members and I heard back from their artist Bizarre. Bizarre is known for his unique style and his shock lyrics, so I knew he'd be awesome on this track. We spoke on the phone, he was really cool about the idea. I sent him the instrumental, and later that same day he got back to me with this.
Sex, love, and rock and roll. I'ma do this till I'm 80 years old. Shout out to Lil Wayne, Eminem, Kamikaze. R.I.P. Ozzy. I love you.
Everybody running, but they're going nowhere.
That's where I spun the bad boy wheel, and it had Mace on there, Lil Kim on there, Loon, G-Dep, like all these bad boy records guys. But these little episodes, it's social media, and it's 1 minute long.
Yeah.
So it's got to be really tight. So a lot of that stuff I do keep for content, you know, some of that kind of thing. But for the most part, it's just, hey, I landed on G-Dep. This guy had some really cool hits, so I'll, you know, Hip Hop IQ, it's like I'll share a little about the artist and like educate people about, you know, this artist.
I like that.
And then I'll give them a quick, you know, 15-second clip to the song. So it's really engaging. It gets shared everywhere. People like to see it, and that drives traffic to the song. So it's like, cool, this little like gimmick kind of thing really helps this. So I've turned it into this bars on guitars is what I call it. But it's a series that, you know, I'll do, I don't know, 10, 15 episodes, and then when I'm done, I'll just put all those songs into an official album that I'll be able to like market.
See, I like what you're doing as far as that too as well, because I feel like it's more than just the music. People get to see the personality side, right? Like me, 50 Cent, like sure, like I listen to his old stuff. I probably, you know, won't listen to too much of his newer stuff, but his personality, I follow him for the personality, right? I love 50 Cent. So I think that's important that you're putting your personality out there. I mean, is that something that you would recommend? Do you think that's part of the success you've been having on Instagram, as opposed to just putting like a clip of just the music, but actually having your personality out there?
I think people right now, if you understand the climate of where we are, if you're Eminem, cool, you don't have to put your personality anywhere. You put out a song and you know millions of people are going. If you're new, like your personality is what you have. You know what I mean? So you need to be putting yourself out there. If people get to know you as a person, people, if you scroll through my, you know, my Instagram or any of that kind of stuff, there's pictures of, or I guess stuff of me and my kids talking about hip hop, or you know what I mean? Just so people understand who Hip Hop IQ is, and if they relate to me as a person, them liking my music is almost a guaranteed. You know what I mean? So if an artist is like, nah, fam, I'm about that business, and I'm just going to collab, and I don't need to put out, you know, what I ate today, and I'm like, okay, but that's a lot of pride talking. Like if you do put your personality out there, man, you're going to get a lot more people connecting with you, responding to you. And in the social media age that we're in right now, where you got 3 seconds before they're going to scroll, man, if you got a personality, freaking use it.
So, I mean, how much of it, right, is you know, sales, right, as opposed, you're not selling a physical item, but, right, it's almost like you're selling yourself, right? I mean, how much of it is selling yourself? And, like you said, the 3 seconds, so it almost brings up the elevator pitch thing, right? You only got so much time, so I guess talk about that.
If I wasn't good at sale, it feels like the last 20 years in sales is like learning human psychology and how to talk to people in every, you know, different market throughout the country, but really learning like how to communicate with people. If I hadn't done that, there's no way I could dive into music and be as successful as I am right out of the gate. So I was really conditioned for this time, for this climate. And so being able to be on social media, you follow trends, you understand, you know, oh, okay, you have to have a, you know, a captivating hook or some kind of gimmick so you get people to come back to your page. If I have in my content or in my music, if I have a one line about, you know, I don't know, in one of my videos that went viral, I was talking to my daughter and I was like, oh, Lil Wayne just said, you know, real G's move in silence like lasagna. Yeah. Like, that's crazy. It's a double entendre because there's a silent G and, you know, it goes viral. And now in one of my songs, I talk about, something about, the silent G in lasagna or whatever. So it like people that are aware of what I'm doing also connect to the music and remember the song. So there are like sales and marketing tips and kind of stuff that you can play into things. But I toe that line where I do want the music to be art, and I don't want to make it commerce that is sellable. You know what I mean? So but you have to have it sellable, or else people won't listen to it. So it's like this tricky line of, I don't want to be Tekashi and put on this entire fake persona in order to sell what I think people want to hear. I do want to be authentic, but you also have to sprinkle in some stuff in there to be able to make sure it is marketable.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, 4 months is pretty quick to kind of blow up. Was there one specific video that maybe got the ball rolling and you noticed you started getting followers, and then was there a bigger video, your biggest video? What are some of the highlights of your social media videos?
The Spin the Wheel campaign has been really, really cool. And seeing that like Bizarre got with it. And then, I spun this like Rough Rider wheel where, like, of course I can't collaborate with DMX or whatever, but if I can get like Eve on there, the Locks on there, Dragon on there, like all this Rough Rider crew that I loved growing up, everybody who was like us that had, flesh of my flesh, blood of my blood, and it's like, oh man, I remember this guy on that album. Now it's like I am selling nostalgia. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's packaged really cool where I've been able to leverage that, and I am connecting with a ton of people that are like me, that are old hip hop heads, and it's like, oh, I haven't even thought of this guy in years, and the fact that he just did a new song, and that's one of the reasons the artists love it, is because they're, I reached out to, I almost don't want to say it, but Young Buck is one coming up, right? Nice. And he's like, dude, I love what you're doing, because literally, like all of these fans that have, maybe someone who loves King Crooked, but isn't as aware of Dragon, loves your series, and now they're like leached onto him. And so it does snowball. So if I'm reaching out to an artist that usually charges 10 grand for a feature, they're like, no, I think this Hip Hop IQ like has cornered this little market that I don't mind jumping on a feature with him, because I know I'm going to get that back in new fans, and his song is going to snowball. So it like becomes this really cool thing where it's really fun. The second project I'm working on that you talked about was that throw the dart at the map thing. Yes. That was another idea where it's like, okay, let me have a separate band. It's Studio 99, so it's myself and my longtime bandmate Nick Noke. And we're like, okay, let's do this campaign where every week we'll throw the dart at the map. Whatever state it lands on, we'll do some quick research and try to find like a really good unknown person in that state. So we throw the dart at the map and it lands on Idaho. Right. I'm like, frick, I don't know anyone from Idaho. And we do some research, reach out to a couple of guys, and we find this diamond in the rough where we collaborated with this dude that's amazing. Wow. And so we're going to do that every week. And week after week, we're about 11 weeks in. But this thing snowballs where people are like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen when he hits my state of Florida. Like, who's he going to pick? Wow. And so these little campaign kind of gimmicky things is really cool for starting a hip-hop career. Yeah. But also, you just learn to make really cool music, and you network, and
it's great because a lot of people, are fans but are artists too, and they want to be involved in the anticipation. When's my state gonna be next, or whatever it may be. So talk about, is produced music videos on YouTube, is that something that you have an interest in? Do you have a like that? You got a lot out there, or something maybe you're looking forward to doing more of? And so the produced music video and live performances, shows, is that something that's in the mix? Anything lined up? Talk a little bit about that.
Produced music videos, I think we're in a different time than we were even 10 years ago, where the value, I'm not going to get the value out of the money that I would spend when I could literally shoot a vertical 15-second TikTok and get 10 times the views. And people want to be entertained quick, they want it fast. So I haven't shot like any music videos for anything I've really done. I've kept everything like these short form content kind of things, because that's where you're going to see explosive growth. For sure. As I get like more and more fans, of course, like getting a cool music video. Same kind of thing with albums. You don't need,
especially with one of these, these features that you get too, that somebody you was a fan of or whatever.
100%.
I mean, imagine that moment of watching. Like, that's got to be such a dope thing. You know what I mean?
For sure.
I think you should definitely try to do that at least.
As it builds, like, of course I want to do music videos, and of course it'd be cool to do shows. In talking to my wife, she was really worried that, like, hey, we have this really good family unit, and we want to protect that. I don't want you out doing shows and, you know, out at gross clubs and living this touring life. You know, so how are we going to protect that? Yeah. I'm like, okay, I can appreciate that. And there are some artists that's how they get their name out there, and they're out doing shows and they rock these crowds and they just snowball over time, which is cool. And it's admirable. I'm not going to take that lane because my situation's different than a 25-year-old kid. And so I don't, you know.
I like that you're working with your circumstances and not using it as an excuse as well, right? Because some people might look at it that way, but I really like that, man. I mean, talk about what's like immediately next for you. You got the 2 campaigns going on. What else is in the mix? What else are you working on that you could speak of, or talk a little bit about that?
You know, building this Bars on Guitars series with these legends, I don't ever want to stop. Like, if I could, you know what I mean? Like,
season 2?
Yeah, of course. Like, I want to get in the same room with some of these guys and build off some of this stuff. And I am making really cool connections where some of these legendary artists are becoming like friends. Like, we're texting on the side and they're talking to me about other stuff, and I'm like, dude, I listened to you in 1997 after Tupac died and Suge Knight signed you, and now you're my friend.
Wow.
Like, it's wild to me. So that Bars on Guitars thing, I'm going to continue doing because I love to collaborate with legends. But that being said, of course, I want to work on my own album that I can really package like this cool, this is who Hip Hop IQ really is, in a way that I can't do with these like rock features. Yeah. So, you know, packaging a really cool album, building from there, being able to, you know, offer merch and do, you know, maybe even tour and do, you know, some stuff like that. You got to have the fan base there. So working on that, and honestly, this is like my retirement program. I could do this until I die. Like, all I do is think about music anyway, so I might as well make money off it and make a career out of it and enjoy my life that way.
Absolutely. So this is called the Bounce Back Podcast, right? You're a little different in the sense of you didn't do time or get in trouble with the law or anything like that, but it's not really always about that, right? It's about perseverance and resilience and making it through tough times. So I guess talk to me a little bit about maybe one of the tougher, or if not the toughest, moment of your life that you had to bounce back from, and how did you get through that?
And I was pondering this on my drive up here because I am a little bit different than like your typical guy. But I think it comes down to like what I was talking about in the beginning, where I said that one of my, I guess, strengths is my ability to delay gratification. So, you know, like everybody comes up, and I think that's something that we can all relate to, that we want something right now. Right. So I'm 20 years old. I don't have a career or anything. I just came back from my mission. I knew I wanted to make money, but like, what do I do with my life? I'd love to be a rapper. I'm not really ready for that. I don't have a foundation or anything. So it's like, as much as I would like to do that, let's build a foundation first. Let me learn how to sell. Let me, you know, spend a lot of time writing music on my own that I don't make money from. And then, you know, things come back around to where once you do establish yourself, opportunities present themselves, and you're like, I've been doing sales for 20 years, and I've built this really healthy cash cow to where now, if I want to dive into music, I'm not held hostage by money, or I'm not desperate for fame or any of these things, and I can actually attack the industry from a position of strength and maturity on my own terms, right? So the ability to be able to look into that kind of stuff is, there's struggle in it because you're delaying what you want right now, but being able to build off of that and I guess grow as a person, you know, and then be able to seize opportunities, I don't know, is really, really cool. I feel like that's something that everybody can connect with, that regardless of where you're at in your journey, if you did have a really tough childhood, or you're getting out of, you know, a bad situation, or did time, or, you know, like whatever it is, it's like, okay, we all want certain things, but if I don't need it right now, I can delay that gratification and work for it and get it the right way. That's a healthy lesson that if you master that, like the sky's the limit. You can pretty much do anything you set your mind to.
Absolutely. And so I guess talk a little bit about, too, some advice you would give to somebody maybe struggling with their faith, right? Because faith is a big part of your life. So talk about that, how big it is for you, and maybe just some advice for somebody that is struggling.
Yeah, it's hard to quantify because I do have really good friends that are just like, hey, religion's made up, man. Yeah. Like you're serving somebody, and there's always someone at the top pulling strings, or there's someone just telling you what you can't do and making you feel guilty. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how they see the world. I almost choose to look at the world, abundantly, where it's like, I believe we have this creator. I believe he wants what's best for us. And these little things that all of us have inside ourselves, like, do you have kids?
No, I don't have kids.
It's for those that do, when you hold like your new kid, there is something not logical that happens. You know what I mean? There's like this emotion that surges through you that's like, oh my gosh. And it's something that everybody like knows, this feeling of love. Stuff like that is proof to me that it's like, hey, we are more than just these like little physical beings down here. There's a spiritual side to stuff. How you want to structure that, Christianity, Buddhist, Mormon, like whatever it is, do you. Like, I'm not about to tell people they're wrong and my way is right or anything like that. But if you can figure out a way to just recognize that you are a part of something bigger, that we're all like the human experience, regardless of where you're living or what your circumstance is, love people, do good by people. As you mature, you recognize, like, be patient. Kids are going to throw tantrums. 20-year-old kids are going to throw 20-year-old type tantrums. Like, we all go through that. Your spouse, she's going to throw a tantrum at some point. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean you have this crazy marriage or whatever. You're just, like, recognizing there's peace and stuff. Do good by people.
Absolutely. We're all in this together. Life's a team sport. That's how I say it.
For sure. So, it's, without getting preachy, it's like, that's something that we can all kind of understand. It's just a matter of recognizing that, which is tough in the heat of the moment when you're feeling slighted or selfish or whatever it is. But just trying to have that abundance mindset, it's helpful for everyone.
So I'm sure the people might want to hear some bars, man. Is there some bars you could give to people right now? I know it's a little tough to put you on the spot.
Yeah, I mean, let me shoot. With no beat, I could be breaking it down quickly. Lyrically, I'm number one and I'm getting it done swiftly. Taking a run, making it fun. The ladies are usually with me.
Nice.
I like to break them, shake them like they're listening to Britney. Hit me, baby, one more time. Instead of composing a rhyme, I combine what I got with Tupac and make it sublime. In the summertime, I'm living it breezy. I never say that the taking and making a break on a record is easy. Please believe me, faking mistakers that don't, thinking you can but you won't. These lyrics are cheesy.
Nice. I mean, that's a genuine freestyle too. A lot of times I'll see on YouTube or whatever, they'll say freestyle, but I think it's just them spitting written verses over, industry beats, which is fine. But I mean, the actual skill of actually coming off the top of the head that is very skillful. Is that something that you do a lot? And just, I guess, talk about your process of making music. Do you write it? Do you just kind of spit and record yourself?
It's tough, man. Like, once you get into like lyricism, like you're seeing patterns everywhere, right? And as people are talking, I'm like, oh, cool. That's actually a double entendre for another meaning.
Right.
Or I'll be, talking to my kids and I'll say something, and then I'll say something else or whatever, and I'll be like, oh, that's a compound rime. Like, I can't stop the pieces of my brain like fitting stuff together. And so once you do that for so long, if I'm talking to somebody or like you want to slip in a freestyle, I do have little punchlines that I'll hold on to that, like, if I want to drop.
Right.
So there's always like a couple of lines that I'll have in the bag. But yeah, freestyling, like, sometimes it comes out good. Sometimes, you go off the rails and your brain is too fast for you. And so, it's an art to it for sure, but it's a learned skill just like anything.
Absolutely. So I guess tell the people, where they can find you on social media, and then I guess some last words, closing words before I let you go, and I appreciate you coming up here.
Yeah, I mean, you can find me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever, just Hip Hop IQ. Just look for the dork in glasses and you'll find me. I'm pretty much on all the socials. If you're, looking to stream the music, obviously Spotify, Apple Music, any of that kind of stuff, Hip Hop IQ. My duo band is called Studio 99. Okay. That's the one where we're collaborating with different artists from different states.
Nice.
But I'm really open, man. If people want to reach out, send me a DM, you want to collab, you want to do podcasts, that kind of stuff. Like, I'm just, the cool thing about not being huge is you can like actually interact with fans and you can collaborate with people and that kind of stuff. So I am at a fun part of the career where I still have the time to really do what I want. So that's a lot of fun. But other than that, man, my message to people, just be authentic. Like, just embrace, being who you are. There's a lot of stuff, haters out there, will say what they say. I heard a quote a couple of weeks ago that I think about all the time and it's like almost a mantra now. And someone said, well, to be cringy is to be free. And I'm just like, oh man, like I love that. Like, just be you. Like, don't worry about what people say. Don't worry about how you come off. Like, be cringe. Like, who freaking cares? Right. Everybody is their own person. And again, just that abundance thing of, I'm going to be authentic to what I do. If you vibe with it, cool. Like, we're friends now. If you don't vibe with it, swipe on and live your life. Like, that's fantastic.
So I guess, you're a father. So what are some things that you kind of instill in your kids or advice that you would give to them as far as being good men moving forward? Or you got a daughter too? Or so a good woman, a good person moving forward and to, do the right thing, stay out of trouble. Like, what are some things that, say you were just talking to a group of your kids, friends, and everybody, and what advice you would give to them?
Motivation is fleeting, so don't depend on motivation or how you feel. No one feels like going to the gym. Right. No one feels like being an honorable person. You know what I mean? Like all that kind of stuff. Rather, discipline. Discipline's my jam. Yeah. Like, if you can discipline yourself, that's where the world's at. That's where you like have unlimited potential. He who's disciplined is going to like own the room. Absolutely. So develop discipline, delay gratification, but at the same time, just show love to people. Like, if someone can do that, I don't know if you can think of anybody, but it's like, if they're disciplined and they love other people, who wouldn't like that person? Right. Like, what can't they do? Wouldn't you want to hire that person for a job? Wouldn't you want to marry someone that was disciplined and owned themselves and they love people? Like, if you can master these two things, life just comes at you easy.
There you go.
It's, I don't know. There's a lot of struggle in the world, but usually someone's lacking one of those things.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Lock in. A lot of times it's really addition by subtraction, vices. It's really more things that people need to stop doing than start doing, I guess, to really be successful, I feel like. But on that note, man, it's been great interviewing you, sitting down with you. It's been great getting to know you guys. If you like this interview, please leave it in the comments. Tell me what you liked about it. If you're watching this from out of state, my man's from Utah, drop the state where you're from in the comments. Show some love. Make sure you follow him on all platforms that you can. Hip Hop IQ. I'm B. Luke. This is the Bounce Back Podcast. Remember, it is what it is. What's next is what you make it. On that note, we're out of here. Peace.
Bounce back, you got a moment. When they see you down, just know they love it.